We're fired up in downtown Deadwood with the team from Deadwood Tobacco Company on this episode of the DTC Blow and Smoke podcast. Featuring from the Deadwood Tobacco Company team, Wild Bill, Consuela, Grimy Grimes, Jakin the Kid, Stach. Produced and directed by the preacher, Ethan. And I am your host, Eye Candy Randy.
To use an ashtray. Break your phone. Smash that like button now. Not 2 weeks from now, not later on, right now. And if it's a subscribe or some other thumbs up or whatever the hell it is, hit it. We need the people. Let's go. Do it now.
Craw.
My number one craw choker is going to be when they walk in this store particularly and start waving their hands, acting like it's, oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. It's like, the fuck do you think you're going into? Do you go into a bowling alley? Is there noise of pins and smells like sweat socks and smells like pin oil? God, you're in a bowling alley. What the fuck else you gonna do in there? Bowl. You come into a cigar store. You should be smoking cigars. If you don't like it, don't come in. Thanks.
Hello and welcome to episode 41 of the DTC Blow and Smoke podcast. I am your host, Eye Candy Randy, behind the board, mixing and mastering, and on camera today is Ethan. Hello, Ethan. How are you?
Greetings.
This is a very special edition we've been working on for about 6 weeks here at the shop. This is the Maduro pack. We came up with this idea to pair a bunch of our favorite Maduros from the humidor with some of our favorite beverages, and then we pre-sold 20 of these packs to you, our listeners and viewers, to have you smoke and drink along with us and pair it on our YouTube channel. So if you have yours, get it out, pick one, whichever one you want, light it up. We're going to go through them one by one. Each member of the team here has a different Maduro. We'll go over all of that, and we're all pairing it with a different beverage. So normally, we start with, what are we smoking? However, because that's the entire premise of the podcast, we'll get to that one by one. Make sure you log on to our YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all of the streaming services, and check this out. If you didn't already get a Maduro pack, after you watch this, go grab one of the ones that we feature here, your favorite beverage, and see how your notes compare to ours. But to start it all off, a little bit of an introduction to what a Maduro is. Here is a piece that the preacher put together on Maduros.
The Maduro cigar. There are, generally speaking, only two types of cigars, natural and Maduro. But because these terms are so general, we need to make a more specific distinction, which leads us to the classification of color. Cigars could be any color from pale green down to midnight black. The pigment coming from how much sunlight or tanning the leaf has received during its growing season, and the amount of fermentation during the process of the tobacco's curing. Green cigars get no fermentation. They are flash dried to lock in the chlorophyll. The brown color we associate with cigars are accomplished during the stages of curing and fermentation. Fermentation is essentially controlled decay, a form of composting. This is a process perfected over many generations. The tobacco is moistened and arranged in piles called pilons. The moisture breeds bacteria which produces heat, carbon dioxide, and ammonia. When the desired temperature is reached, the pilon is taken apart, reassembled, and the process is repeated. This turns the leaves' natural starches into sugars and produces the Maduro's signature dark and oily appearance. But does that mean, because Maduros are darker and have been fermented longer, that they are essentially stronger? Maduro is a Spanish word that means mature or ripe, but not dark as in heavy or strong. The natural wrapper can even be stronger and exhibit a rich, spicy flavor not found in the Maduro's mild and slightly sweet wrapper. Maduros are really just one type of cigar coming predominantly from two different places, the Connecticut broadleaf and the Mexican San Andres. The broadleaf Maduro is by far and away the most popular choice for Maduro cigar wrappers. Known for its meaty and somewhat toasty sweet taste, it's grown primarily in the Connecticut River Valley, or with Connecticut seeds grown in Ecuador. It has a thick, rugged quality and produces a creamy, silky, and naturally sweet cigar. The Ashton Aged Maduro is a great example. Mexican San Andres, a Mexican seed leaf now running a close second to the broadleaf variety in popularity. It produces Maduros that are very thick and oily. Tuxtla, Mexico is the perfect place to produce this common tobacco used in Maduro wrappers. In fact, the Padron family of cigars use this almost exclusively. A bold taste, spice, and slightly sweet chocolate, leather, and earth. We're going to give you more examples in this episode, The Maduro, episode number 41. We hope that this primer on the Maduro wrapper helps in dispelling misconceptions and highlights some of the distinctives of the Maduro cigar and leads you to want to try a darker, different cigar from what you might normally smoke.
And there you have it, a short little piece about Maduro. Hopefully that has informed you a little bit as Stashless over here tries to drink his smoldering scotch. We're going to do, in order, what we are smoking. Now for this round, gentlemen, we are only going to talk about the cigar. We're going to come to the beverages later on, and we're going to start with none other than the leader of the tribe, Mr. Wild Bill. Bill, what are you smoking?
Hoo-da-da-da, hoo-da-da. We are smoking the Ashton Aged Maduro, a beautiful Connecticut broadleaf, aged 5 years, naturally composted, has natural sweetness to it, a little cream, a little pepper. It's hitting the palate just nice right now.
All right. Grimes, you're up next. What are you smoking?
I am smoking the CLE Prieto.
Get on the mic.
Well, I am smoking the CLE Prieto.
Tell us a little bit about the Prieto.
It's going to be a Connecticut broadleaf, Nicaraguan. Going to give you some very nice chocolate and cocoa notes with a little bit of earth and some nice subtle pepper.
Very nice. Ethan, which one did you pick?
I have got the Osgener Aramis. It's fantastic. Mexican San Andres wrapper, Ecuadorian Habano binder, and the interesting thing is actually in the filler. It's got some Nica, some Dominican, but it's also got U.S. Connecticut broadleaf in the binder, filler. Fantastic.
Very nice. And young Jakin, what are you smoking?
I'm smoking the Cabe Guapos RX Maduro. We got a Connecticut broadleaf wrap on this with Nicaraguan filler binder. Done for Pete Johnson at the My Father factory. Just a nice medium body smoke, nothing too heavy. Really enjoying it. Nice and earthy.
And this newcomer, this young gentleman to my left, Stashless. What are you smoking, Stash?
Stashless is enjoying the Crux Epicure. Ooh, we got some cedar notes, some cocoa going on in this thing, and it is phenomenal stick. Tony, thanks for introducing me to this. The other Tony, not me. Not the young guy, but the old fuck that does the stuff.
Tony from Crux.
Tony from Crux.
All right, Bill. What would you say, if you had to pick, what are the predominant notes that you're getting out of your Ashton aged Maduro?
You know, because Ashton does a nice broadleaf with this through the Fuente process, it creates a natural sweetness. But what really is really nice to me is the cream that comes across the palate with the sweetness. It acts like an Ecuadorian Connecticut in a way that sweet cream comes across. But it also has a heavy amount of pepper that adds flavor and earth tones to it. So overall, I like the way it expresses itself across my palate and the earth tones with the sweetness.
And if you're watching right now and smoking the Ashton aged Maduro, go ahead and leave us a comment and let me know if you agree with Bill or if you're tasting a little bit something different. Everyone's palate has its own flavors, its own profile, and let us know what you're picking up, if it's the same or maybe not at all. Grimes, what about you? What's the predominant flavor you're grabbing from that Prieto?
Cocoa.
Like a baker's?
Like a
bitter?
baker's cocoa with some little bit of pepper to it, especially on that retro hell.
And Ethan, what about that Osgener Aramis? What's the flavor that's coming through the most on that for you?
Well, what's interesting about the Osgener is that it has like an earthy cedar kind of mocha wood flavor. That would be the first one.
All right. Kid, what's Pete Johnson got mixed in there that you are finding most predominant?
Decent bit of earth, not heavy on the pepper, which is nice. Almost like a toasted nuttiness to it, maybe hazelnut.
Very good. Stashless, what about you? What's the first thing you recognize when you take your first draw?
Stashless is picking up the cocoa, definitely. Little aftertaste of cedar in it, which is, it's complementing to what I happen to be drinking, but we won't go down that road yet because we can't. Blech, whatever. Anyway, that's it's a very, for a, so people that know me, I'm normally not a big dark cigar smoker. So this one's actually one I actually enjoy for that.
Yo, Randy,
Yo.
have you noticed everything is cocoa-y today?
I have. I was just going to ask you that, Bill. It seems as though all the Maduros that you're sampling, either the primary or the most significant secondary, is a cocoa one. Can you tell us why that is?
No, I can't, because normally different Maduros with the natural compressing or the way that manufacturer does their particular Maduro and how they get it to that shade, there's 8 different colors of Maduro. But the interesting thing to me was everybody said cocoa. Different types of cocoa. Hershey baking, normal cocoa. Can you have cocoa in a cigar, or can you have cocoa in just a Maduro only? That's the real question. The real question then has to get answered, and sometimes there's less cocoa in a different style of wrapper, but a dark Maduro might have more cocoa than another Maduro.
Well, I'll tell you right now, this mofo's got some cocoa going on in it.
So the Crux Epicure Maduro, pretty heavy on the cocoa to your palate?
Yes, to me, yes.
If I had the aged
Definitely.
Maduro with the dark chocolate, right? The dark chocolate would definitely come out of this cigar. Whether or not it's prevalent when you smoke it with the wine is not the important thing, but the earth tones, the sweetness, the creamy note, that's in what's my cigar. But when you add earth tones from Nicaragua, Honduras, you're going to play on different chocolates. Everybody uses a different type of chocolate when they bake. So if you're talking about an American chocolate cake versus a Nicaraguan chocolate cake
Big
versus
difference.
a Honduras chocolate cake, everybody's going to use a different type of chocolate. And not everybody's going to use Hershey's. Everybody's going to use a different, maybe it's a drier chocolate that when you're salivating on it, it changes to the creaminess that you're looking for. And you have to pay attention to that when you're doing a cigar, because when you're smoking a cigar and it's got a lot of earth tones, okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want chocolate notes, maybe you pick the wrong thing, or you have to wait till it opens up and blossoms. And when you add attributes like dry almonds, walnuts, deep dark 85% chocolates, and different beverages that we're going to talk about, you'll see how these nuances come out, and why the guys on the team feel they're feeling a chocolate reservoir come across their palate.
Do you think that there's something to be said about the fact that, as the piece that we ran before this segment states, that the Maduro is ripe, the tobacco, because it's aged and fermented? Do you think that the perhaps novice smoker sees the dark color of the wrapper and immediately is drawn to that just by the comparison? Like, oh, it's dark, so it has to be chocolatey. Is that
Well,
something you've seen?
no. You and I both know that when a novice sees a cigar that's dark, they think powerful, strong, which we know that it doesn't necessarily mean that. A Connecticut can have strength and power on the Cabawan Natural, where the Maduro is a little softer on the palate.
Well, let's talk about the strength and body, your pick. I know, Bill, yours of the 5 that we're smoking here, how would you describe the strength and or body of the Ashton as compared to the other 4?
It's a medium body, but it's in the mild category of medium bodied. It doesn't linger on the palate like a cat took a shit on your tongue. It's clean, it's crisp, and it doesn't linger. And sometimes a Maduro doesn't need to linger. Sometimes it just needs to be clean and fresh.
Grimes, what about the Prieto?
What's going on with the Prieto?
What do you think about the body and or strength of that?
About a medium bodied. Now that I've been smoking into it a little bit more, I'm getting a little bit more earth tones on it.
And then, Ethan, I think you might have what we might consider one of the stronger of the 5 with the Aramis. What are your thoughts on the body of that one?
It's interesting because, like I said, it's got that earthy cedar note with some mocha, with some wood. But as I'm getting into it, it almost has this kind of, the cedar is more creamy and it almost a bread note. That's what I'm getting.
Bread.
Bread.
Like a fresh baked, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Stach,
Yeast.
How about you? With the Epicure, it's interesting with the Crux line. They have the Epicure Habano, they have the Epicure Connecticut, and they have the Epicure Maduro, which has the same filler binder. The only difference in those is the wrapper. So what do you think that does to the either the strength or body of that cigar?
I think it's punching out the cocoa just a touch more than everything else. And it's just a phenomenal cigar. I don't know what to say about it. It's very good with what I'm pairing with, which we'll get into.
You just want to talk about beer. I know how you are.
Duh. But
There, kid. Last but not least, what's the body and or strength of the Cabawan?
You know, it's a nice medium body. It's not venturing too high, not venturing too low. It's just sitting right where I like my palate to be. I'm normally kind of a medium body smoker myself. It's just something I've picked up after a while. That's my go-to. But it's just one I've been enjoying.
Well, very good. In just a little bit, we're going to go to the second step of this episode, which is
the beer.
Stach's favorite.
Wait a minute, Randy.
Yep.
What about the Aganorsa that you didn't say?
Well, this isn't in. This is not in the pack. I just wanted to smoke a Maduro as well. I believe when we assembled the pack, we may not have had enough of this particular cigar in the humidor.
We didn't even have it.
Exactly. So I'm smoking. Mr. Fabian Ziegler is now the head of. Is he national sales? What's his title? Doesn't matter.
Bigwig.
Bigwig. Yeah. Yeah.
Official.
Order all,
Motherfucker with all the
Mr.
stuff.
Order all the food. Fabian is really working great for the Aganorsa people, and this is the Robusto Maduro from them. I would not normally pair it with what I'm pairing it with, but I did dry January. I did sober October, and I needed to have my IPA. So we'll get to drinks in just a second.
What?
What the hell is going on?
Wait a minute. Wait, guys. I think we realized something. After this podcast, Randy can drink.
Exactly.
So we're going to
Drinking
get
right
him
now.
drunk.
Oh, okay. Sounds like a plan.
Well, that's happening. But
We'll go next door for shots. Speaking of drunk, we won't get you there, but we're going to get you incredibly happy If you want to join us for our brand new cigar and whiskey pairing that we are doing in conjunction with the Old Style Saloon Number 10 and Johnson Brothers Distributing, those tickets are on sale right now on our website, deadwoodtobacco.com, or you can check out the Facebook event and buy them on there. Here's what you're going to get. You're going to get an instruction from Mr. Wild Bill himself on how different foods, we're talking about nuts and fruits and chocolate, cocoa, as we've said 700 times tonight, affect how the cigar interacts with your palate. And in addition, we're going to pair it with a vertical flight of 3 Bowman Brothers bourbons, including a single barrel, a small batch, and a port barrel finished bourbon. Those tickets are just $64 for one. You get a deal if you bring your spouse or best friend, whatever you want to do. $110 for 2. It's going to be on Saturday, November 26th, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Private event after the shop is closed. Only 40 tickets. As of the airing of this, I bet we're going to be down a lot less than that. So go online right now, deadwoodtobacco.com, and put it in your cart, check out, and we'll see you guys on the 26th. Here is a little bit more that Ethan put together about the cigar and bourbon pairing. Welcome back. Get your tickets now, deadwoodtobacco.com, for the cigar and whiskey pairing, which brings us to the pairing part of this podcast, episode number 41. It will be the beverages that we have all chosen to pair with our Maduros. And this time, we're going to go backwards, and we're going to start with Stachless. You've been wanting to talk about it for about 45 minutes now. Stash, what are you drinking to go along with your Crux Epicure Maduro?
I have a Sawyer, which is out of Spearfish, South Dakota. What?
I said he had me not drink. That's why I went to you first.
All right, good enough.
Fucker.
Sawyer Smoldering Scotch, which for beer is a very good just Scotch ale beer. It's phenomenal. And to go with this Epicure Crux, it brings out that cocoa. And it brings out some of the cedar. It does.
Cocoa. I
Just
felt
saying
left
that.
out. I didn't get to say it.
Cocoa.
But it's a phenomenal pair. So I'm if anybody you've been watching when Stash was on, now Stashless is here, but when Stash was on, it was I'm a beer guy. I like beer. I do love good scotches, but beer is my thing. So a phenomenal pairing. If you ever get a chance to get up to Spearfish, have some of their pizza. Oh my God, they got some of the best wood-fired pizza.
This podcast brought to you by Sawyer Brewing Company, Spearfish, South Dakota.
Well, hey,
it's a great beer.
It's a good beer. I like it. It's phenomenal for what they do for a small batch brewery, and it's in South Dakota, so you can't really argue that.
All right. Next up, we're going to go to Jakin. Now, at the bar here, Deadwood Tobacco, we have beer and wine, but for this podcast, we can pair with anything we want. And young Mr. Bacon over here has what?
I'm going to butcher the name. Balvenie?
There you go.
Balvenie. It's a Caribbean cask, 14 years. So I believe it's a...
14-year what?
Sorry, let me look at it.
Not a 14-year-old.
Scotch.
Yes.
It's
there you
older
go.
than you are, just about, but we'll
It's younger than me, only by a little bit.
By 9 years.
And I noticed that the ice cubes are completely gone.
Yes, the ice cubes are gone. I did have to cut it a little bit because, full confession, guys, I'm not much of a Scotch drinker. My background's in beer. Not even in wine, just beer.
Also, full disclosure, the kid did not get to pick his own beverage.
Yeah, I found out Scotch, and I was like, okay, let's do this. But you know what? It's pleasant. It's not what I was expecting from a Scotch. I've definitely been burned, figuratively and literally, by whiskey.
In your whole 23 years of life.
I hate whiskey. It doesn't help me at all. But this one's nice. It's softer on the palate. That aftertaste isn't super heavy. It's got a little bit of like very distant, like a distant, 3 times removed cousin to vanilla going on in there.
Very nice. Moving on to what I would probably pair the beverage that Ethan has. Ethan, what are you drinking along with your cigar there?
Well, I've got a Zacapa 23 rum.
That's really good rum.
I wish that was
It's
me.
interesting. I'm not a huge rum drinker ever since I had a really bad episode down in Nicaragua.
That happens.
Are you sure
I
it
hate
was the
rum.
rum?
The story goes, well, we went to this cigar. It was a club, man. They had dancing and all this stuff. I had one guy over my right shoulder with ice, and a guy over my left shoulder pouring more rum. Do you remember what this was, Bill? This is the most famous rum out of Nicaragua.
Flor de Caña.
Yes. And, it was some special, like, 30-year-old stuff. And then we had a
He
bus
was
ride.
at a dance club.
Dude, we had a bus ride back, and it was hot. I had
Paved the way.
some
The
pasta
road
dish.
was bumpy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The road was bumpy. I had some pasta dish. We did a long ash competition, and it was everything I could do to keep it down. So I'm not a huge rum drinker. This stuff comes out of Guatemala. It's a blend of 6 to 23-year-old rums in aged barrels, and it's got a really bright kind of sherry taste, some caramel, some vanilla, and some butterscotch, which is interesting with the cigar that I'm smoking, which has got a really prominent kind of earthy leather note.
Very nice.
Yep.
Grimes, the old standard, the Guinness Dry Irish Stout. Tell us why you picked that one.
It brings out a little bit of cream in it, with it being a Connecticut broadleaf on the wrapper.
Bill, Wild Bill, what are you drinking with your smoke?
Feel a little privileged tonight, to be honest with you. We got a great deal on some Camus. So I'm smoking the Ashen Age Maduro with the Camus that has a beautiful Cabernet to it, which allows the big fruit up front, which brings out the sweetness in the Maduro. But the interesting thing about it is it mutes the earth tones on the Maduro and allows the cream to be more prevalent. And it actually mixes with the wine and makes it a little bit more silky than what the grape actually can do.
And that leads me to what my next question was going to be, and we'll just go backwards again and start with you again, Bill. Your actual draw of your cigar, since you've been having the cigar and the wine together as opposed to when you smoke that cigar without the wine, what changed on your palate? What was either enhanced or what was something that maybe was diminished?
Interesting, because the sweetness would be the first thing that you would think about that would either change because the wine has a natural sweet grape along with the sweet Maduro. But the cream is what came out of it when the sweetness both balanced each other out. And a little bit of a softness of earth tone in that cream made it an explicit array of flavor across my palate.
And I think that's either the third or fourth time that Bill's talked about the creaminess of the Maduro. Anybody else getting creaminess in their Maduros? Or is that something that's more unique to the Ashton Age Maduro?
I don't think it's I don't believe it's unique to the Ashen Age Maduro. Because when you look at Maduros, they tend to have chocolates, right? And chocolates tend to be creamy, whether it's a Hershey chocolate or a bitter dark chocolate. But when you add and chew up bitter dark chocolate into your palate, the saliva makes it creamy. It's just more earthy, more leathery. It's not as milky like Hershey.
Well, and I don't think that most people would pair necessarily. It wouldn't be the first go-to a cigar and wine.
No, but when you look at the attributes of what makes tobacco and what makes a grape, they're on par with chocolate. So all three are symbiotic to an explosion of flavor on across your palate.
And I noticed that no one in this chose coffee. You know, we all open the shop different
It's
days
late
of
at
the
night
week.
when we did this, and we didn't want coffee.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking, because if you're in the shop when we open at 10 o'clock in the morning, you will often see almost everybody on staff having coffee with their cigar.
Yep.
Probably more of a morning ritual. I know I personally start with a lighter cigar with a Connecticut, usually when we have it in stock.
He
Like
drinks a lot of milk with his coffee.
I do. I'm a latte fan. I like
I'm just
the
saying.
udders.
That's great for Connecticut, but that's not what we're doing.
Exactly.
I like cowboy coffee.
Yes, I would imagine so. So Grimes, what's the Guinness doing to the profile of the Prieto? Is there anything that you're picking up a little bit more when you have the Guinness with it as opposed to the cigar by itself?
I'm picking up more earth notes on it, leathery. That's just my opinion.
And that's what the whole thing is about. If you agree with Grimes, if you've got the Prieto and you're drinking that with your favorite beverage, let us know in the comment section. Put it down there and say, hey, I'm drinking this, smoking with this. I think this is right. I think this is wrong. Grimes is tasting this. I'm tasting this instead. Let us know, because everyone's going to be a little bit different across the board.
What?
I know.
And a little
Weird.
bit of pepper.
A little bit of pepper. Very good.
Yeah, pepper.
And Ethan, with the rum, which is typically a Caribbean-based drink, what are you noticing that it's doing to the Osgener?
What was interesting is, the cigar's got that great leather and woody, earthy undertone to it. You immediately put a rum with it, and that brings the sweetness to it, the caramel, the vanilla, the butterscotch. And it's almost now on the other end, with the cigar, it's bringing out this kind of caramelized nuts, some toasted hazelnut, and there's a prominent note of raisin, which is a really interesting. Yeah, so I've got bread and raisin. It's like raisin bread coming out of the oven.
Wait, I got a
Now I
question.
want to try that rum and that cigar with it.
Are we
You're
talking
saying
raisin because of all the sugar? Are we talking a craisin?
A craisin, exactly.
Because a craisin's different from a raisin.
I don't know what a craisin is.
It's cranberry raisin.
Cranberry raisin, which means less sweetness, more tartness.
Does anybody else really want bread pudding right now?
Well,
Yes.
It's sort of creeping up on me. I'm not a big bread pudding fan.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yep.
The fruit,
A sugar content, when you look at a raisin versus a currant and the other one, you have to look at the sugar content and what that produces to create the sweetness that comes across the palate, which will enhance or distract from the actual cigar or drink.
the sweetness of the sherry and those kind of toasted notes up front, it also has an undertone of fruit, but I wouldn't, it's almost like a dried fruit, like a dried pineapple, I don't know, banana.
Don't say banana chip.
No.
Banana chip?
No. No.
It
Only
does,
because that's
man.
what we got a lot of left in that snack box.
Hey, those are really good.
They are, but
All right, Kid. Since we've established that you're not a Scotch fan traditionally, what have you noticed with the cigar? How has the flavor changed now that you're a little bit deeper into your Balvenie 12-year?
Now I'm a little deeper.
14-year.
Oh, did you get the 14? Ah.
Yeah. I'm living large.
Oh, very good. Yeah, this is how I thought this would go. Hey, let's get everybody drinks and see what happens.
I never foresaw this going terribly wrong.
Anything different with the cigar? What are the notes now?
It's really pulled back a lot of that earthiness I've been getting up front. The partial sweetness I'm getting from my Scotch it's interesting. I don't want to say it's pulling more cocoa out of this necessarily, just at the risk of beating the word cocoa to death and making it mean nothing.
let's not do that.
But
At least it's not family.
Yeah. Not family.
it's just almost a different type of earthiness.
Okay, all right.
Like, not quite smoking a handful of dirt like when you drink a red wine, but like
smoking. I have had a cigar in our humidor that smoked like a handful of dirt.
So have I, but we won't mention the name.
Nice and pleasant still. It's really helped that cigar kind of pull itself back even more.
Do you think that is it overpowering the cigar, or is it complementing it?
I think in this situation, it's overpowering it just a little bit. It's not letting the cigar shine as much as I would like it to, personally. But when it comes down to it, I like my cigar more than I like my beer.
Do you think the Caboan Natural would be more of what you're looking for with that Balvenie, or is the Maduro being less?
I would actually say I think I would agree with you. That natural would be more of what would pair well with this Balvenie.
That would make sense because very similar on the beer side. I'm having an IPA right now, technically an APA, with my Maduro, which is very tough
Not
to
even part of that.
pair with a cigar. It's super hard to pair with a cigar. But yeah, it's got notes that are similar to the notes in Scotch. Now, how peaty is that one? I've never had the Balvenie. Is that a peaty one, or is it?
It's not really peaty at all, which is why I actually can sip it down.
Okay, very good. And Mr. Smoldering Scotch over there, what is that delicious Sawyer brew doing to your cigar?
It's pairing out really nice. I'm actually picking up a lot more cedar notes with the smoldering Scotch and the cigar than I would not pick up normally when I'm smoking a Maduro, which is very rare for me because I'm a Connecticut type of guy. But anyway, that's where I'm going with that. So, and if you don't like it, well, then your palate's different. Mine, and fuck off.
There we go. Perfect.
I was waiting for Stach to
Amen.
show up. So one last question for everybody. We're going to start with Ethan on this one. If you were out socially, let's say you're traveling to a cigar lounge somewhere else, you're trying their product, ideally, what would you do? How would you pair a beverage with your cigar, and what would be your go-to pairing? Not necessarily a Maduro, but if you're like, hey, I want a good drink and a good cigar, what's your go-to pairing?
Go-to pairing would be a Maduro, probably Toro size, and an Oban Scotch, something like that.
Churchill.
Glenlivet.
Churchill, quit lying.
Churchill. Yeah, Ethan smokes almost nothing but Churchills. Yeah.
It's the way to go.
Yep.
If you're me.
Yep. Length over girth. I understand. Grimes, what's your ideal pairing? If you're going to be out and about and enjoying a drink and a cigar, what would you have?
Well, I spent a night over at Bill's house one night, and he gave me the rum that Ethan is partaking in right now, and I would pair it with a Padron Diplomatico.
That does sound very good. Stach, I'm gonna guess you're gonna say a Connecticut.
Duh.
And what would you pair it with?
Believe it or not, it seems to me most Connecticut's seem to go good because a Shiner Bock. And the reason why I'm saying Shiner Bock is it's not a light, it's not a dark, it's in the middle of the road. Very good middle of the road beer for me.
And Bill, we're going to put this to the test in a couple of weeks as we take a trip down south to the Omaha-Lincoln area. Walk into a cigar lounge. They've got beverages. What are you picking out and pairing? What's your preference?
Cameron Wrapper, Macallan 12. Both of them have a beautiful symbiotic relationship that allows the sweet spice to dance across the palate and create like an opera feeling that allows you to relax.
That's a little more, wow.
A little more nuanced than yours?
Yeah.
That was some shit right there.
He pulled that straight out of his ass, but it was good.
Pretty much. I'll make sure to take
Everybody's like, what the hell did you just say?
I'm gonna take a picture when we're down in Lincoln. Yes. Kid, last but not least, what's your ideal pairing if you're out and about and you want to have a nice relaxing evening?
He's going to say Dungeons and Dragons.
Pokemon.
I won't say Dungeons and Dragons or Pokemon.
Pokemon's coming up.
So I will say I don't have the history that all these guys do, since I'm, not a living dinosaur still.
Shots fired.
But I would say one of my best experiences I've had is something like a good sun-grown Maduro or a Corojo. I've been on a big Corojo kick. And then something amber, Recently I took a trip down to Pittsburgh to visit my older brother, and I got to have a lovely, lovely Yingling amber with a cigar and a nice cigar lounge. And it was just what I needed, Nothing too heavy, nice and relaxing, letting the cigar come to the forefront, but still having a nice, tasty beer next to me.
Very good. Thanks very much for watching along with us. Again, if you
Hot chocolate.
If you have enjoyed the Maduro pack that we put together, make sure you leave comments on our YouTube underneath this episode of the podcast, episode 41, or you can comment on Facebook, Instagram, any of our social media. Let us know. We actually got one. Ethan printed this out for me from a gentleman who picked it up earlier. And Jim from the Twin Cities, he said, I picked up the Maduro pack at the new DTC shop a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to the CLE Pareto, Grimes.
Nice.
And I am pairing it with Surly the Darkness Imperial Stout. That sounds pretty good. Yeah. Well, thanks, Jim, for letting us know that you grabbed one of our packs. And we look forward to seeing more from you as well. And anyone else who has enjoyed smoking with us, whenever you watch us on YouTube with this episode. That's about it for us. We have a couple of house cleaning items. It's a rock and roll weekend here at Deadwood Tobacco Company. Granite Sun will be on stage Friday and Saturday night from 8 until midnight. Our good friends up the street at the Deadwood Mountain Grand are hosting Hairball on Saturday. So before or after or both, make sure you stop in here, pregame, postgame, get a cigar and listen to Granite Sun. And I'm very excited about our next episode number 42. That's going to drop November 21st, featuring a good friend of Wild Bill's and the shop, Mr. Christian Arroyo from CLE Arroyo Asylum Cigars. We're going to be chatting about a bunch of stuff that he has coming out, and of course, an update on the eagerly anticipated Asylum 8670 Auntie and Midnight Oil.
That's right.
So make sure you tune in. That is going to be the second of our trilogy of heavy hitters. We had John Huber on the last episode, and then we're going to have Nick Melillo from Foundation on the last of those three. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that fun stuff so we can actually make some money off of this damn thing. Thanks very much for joining us. Gentlemen, you have anything else?
Don't smash your fucking cigars out in the ashtray. It's simple. Drop it, let it die with dignity.
For the
That's all
entire
I'm saying.
DTC team, thanks for tuning in. Ethan behind the board, mixing and mastering. I am Eye Candy Randy. I can't believe we made it through. Thanks for tuning in, episode 41. That's a wrap. We'll see you guys at the shop. Thanks for spending time with the DTC Blow and Smoke podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.